The galaxy had never seen such a desperate cry for help. Across the vast blackness of space, a trembling message pierced the silence, a plea from the greatest coalition of alien worlds. They had ruled the stars for centuries, their technology far beyond anything anyone else had ever created. Their ships gleamed like jewels against the void, their weapons could tear apart asteroids, and their minds had unlocked secrets that made other civilizations seem primitive. Yet now, everything they had built was crumbling like dust in a harsh wind. The coalition's leaders, proud and confident for so long, were now gripped by a fear they could barely hide. The reason was simple. An enemy unlike any other had arrived. This unknown force was tearing through their defenses with brutal efficiency, breaking the rules of warfare the coalition had relied on for generations. Their advanced weapons struggled to penetrate the enemy's strange armor. Their shields flickered and failed against savage attacks that seemed both calculated and wild, as if the attackers thrived on chaos itself. The alien fleets, once the pride of their worlds, were being shattered in battle after battle. Star systems fell silent, their brilliant cities reduced to ghostly ruins. Across communication networks, desperate calls for aid poured in from frontline commanders. The coalition's halls, once filled with confident strategies and bold plans, echoed instead with grim reports of loss and retreat. Every moment brought fresh horror. A flagship destroyed, a colony world overrun, a fleet disappearing into the black. Fear was spreading faster than the enemy. Some whispered of surrender, while others sought to rally their remaining forces for a final stand. But hope seemed to be slipping away like sand through fingers. It was during this darkest hour that something unexpected happened. In the midst of the chaos, a faint signal broke through the frantic chatter, a message from far, beyond the known sectors, from the edges of space where few dared to explore. It was a fleet, arriving suddenly and without warning. Their ships were different, smaller, rougher, not polished like the coalition's shining warships. They carried no banners or symbols the aliens recognized. But the message was clear. They were here to fight. The coalition's leaders stared at the screen, disbelief mixing with cautious hope. This was the legendary Deathworlder fleet, stories of which had drifted through the galaxy like myths. These were warriors said to come from planets so harsh and unforgiving that only the toughest could survive. They were not like the coalition's elite soldiers, trained in order and precision. Instead, they were hardened by survival itself, fierce and relentless. Some in the council doubted their ability to help. How could a ragtag group from brutal worlds face the powerful enemy that was destroying the finest fleets? Yet as the first battle reports came in, those doubts began to fade. The Deathworlders fought with a savage intelligence, using tactics no one expected. Their ships moved swiftly, striking hard and disappearing before the enemy could respond. They adapted to the enemy's weapons quickly, turning weaknesses into traps. The coalition soldiers found renewed courage watching these newcomers. The grim faces began to show sparks of hope. But the question remained, who were these Deathworlders, really? And why had they come at the galaxy's hour of greatest need? As the unknown enemy pressed forward, crushing worlds and crushing spirits, the arrival of the Deathworlder fleet was like a sudden storm breaking through the silence. It promised something the coalition had almost forgotten, a chance to fight back, to survive, and maybe even to win. Yet the mystery of the Deathworlders' origins and their brutal ways added a new tension to the battlefield. Allies wondered if this strange fleet could be trusted, or if their fierce reputation hid darker intentions. But for now, as the enemy advanced like a shadow swallowing the stars, the desperate plea for mercy had found its answer, not in surrender, but in the fierce arrival of those who lived to battle against impossible odds. The galaxy held its breath, waiting to see if this new force could turn the tide, or if all would fall into silence beneath the unknown menace. The story of survival, hope, and fierce determination was just beginning. The arrival of the Deathworlder fleet was unlike anything the galaxy had ever witnessed. They did not glide gracefully like the sleek ships of the alien coalition, nor did they shine with the polished metal of advanced technology. Instead, they came like a storm, rugged, raw, and unyielding. Their ships were built for survival rather than elegance. Heavy plating covered their hulls, often marked with scars from countless battles fought on hostile planets where the air could poison and the soil could swallow a man whole. These vessels looked almost primitive compared to the delicate machines of the Coalition, but that roughness was their strength. Every surface was designed for function, not beauty. Thick engines roared to life, propelling them with fierce speed, while weapon systems were simple yet devastatingly effective. The Deathworlder commanders were a breed apart, hardened by years of living on planets so deadly that only the toughest survived. They carried an unbreakable spirit. Their faces, weathered and lined, told stories of constant struggle against nature's harshest tests, poisonous atmospheres, savage predators, and deadly storms. They did not lead their fleets with fancy tactics or rigid formations, but with brutal ingenuity and an unyielding will to win. The Coalition's leaders watched this strange fleet with mixed emotions, awe at their boldness and the raw power they wielded, and fear at the unknown nature of these newcomers. What kind of force had appeared from the edges of the galaxy, where few dared to go? How could such rough ships and tough commanders hope to face the enemy that had shattered their finest fleets? The Deathworlders wasted no time proving they were a force to be reckoned with. Their ships dropped out of warp near the front lines and struck swiftly as if they were born from the very chaos of battle. Unlike the Coalition's tightly coordinated strikes, the Deathworlders attacked with fierce unpredictability. They used the environment, the smallest advantages, and their deep knowledge of survival to outmaneuver their foes. While the Coalition's ships relied on precision targeting and energy shields, the Deathworlders adapted quickly. When energy shields were useless, they focused on brute force, ramming, boarding, and close quarters fighting where their tougher crews could overwhelm opponents. When the enemy tried to hide behind asteroid fields or in debris clouds, the Deathworlders hunted them down relentlessly, as if tracking prey on a deadly planet. Their tactics seemed chaotic at first, but there was a cold, calculated intelligence behind every move. Their commanders shared knowledge as if each battle was a lesson, learning fast and adapting even faster. Communication was simple and direct. No fancy codes, just clear commands passed from ship to ship. The alien coalition's fleet was taken aback by this approach. For generations, their forces had relied on superior technology and elegant battle plans. They believed their enemy would fall before such overwhelming power. But the Deathworlders showed them a different way. Strength was not only about machines or numbers, it was about resilience, creativity, and the refusal to give up. The Deathworlder ships did not hesitate or falter even when outnumbered. Their crews worked like one living organism, instinctively covering each other's weaknesses and striking hard wherever the enemy showed a weakness. Their presence on the battlefield changed everything. Where panic had ruled before, a new sense of determination spread among the coalition forces. Soldiers who had thought all was lost now found hope. Seeing the Deathworlders fight with such savage skill reminded them why survival was worth every risk. Yet, alongside this hope, the mystery of the Deathworlders deepened. Who were these warriors? What strange worlds had forged such fierce fighters? Rumors spread quickly. Some said they came from planets where the atmosphere could burn skin or freeze water instantly. Others whispered that their homeworlds were filled with predators so dangerous that only the strongest humans lived there, constantly tested by nature itself. No one knew for sure, but one thing was clear. The Deathworlders had been shaped by struggle, and that struggle had made them unstoppable. The alien coalition began to reconsider everything they knew about warfare. Their technology, while still powerful, was no longer enough. They had to learn from these newcomers or face total destruction. Discussions that had once been filled with certainty now carried questions about how to survive in a galaxy where old rules no longer applied. Meanwhile, the enemy watching from the shadows felt the shift too. Their confident advance slowed as they met this fierce new force. Battles that had once been easy victories turned into brutal, grinding fights. The Deathworlders showed no mercy, but also no unnecessary cruelty. They fought to end the threat quickly, using every tool at their disposal. The galaxy seemed to hold its breath. Could this strange fleet from harsh worlds truly change the course of a war that had already claimed so many lives? Was their arrival a turning point or just a brief flicker before the darkness swallowed everything? As the Deathworlders continued their assault, their raw determination became a beacon for those who believed in fighting against impossible odds. The Coalition's hope was fragile but growing, like a small flame in a cold night. The battle for survival was far from over, but for the first time in a long time, the galaxy saw a chance to stand tall again. The Deathworlders had arrived, not as polished heroes but as fierce warriors born from the worst the universe could throw at them. Their storm had come, and the galaxy would never be the same. The battle between the Deathworlders and the invading enemy had shifted the balance in ways no one expected. Where the invaders once moved confidently, believing their superior numbers and technology would overwhelm all resistance, the Deathworlders now stood firm and unyielding. Their ships struck with relentless precision, attacking with a fierce determination that caught the enemy off guard. Unlike the polished but predictable tactics of the alien coalition's fleets, the Deathworlders fought with savage adaptability. Every battle was a lesson learned, and their commanders wasted no time adjusting their strategies to meet new threats. When the enemy unleashed new weapons or unexpected maneuvers, the Deathworlders responded with quick thinking and brutal innovation. They used the terrain of space, the shifting debris, the dark asteroid belts, the close proximity of hostile planets, to their advantage, turning what others saw as obstacles into traps. The enemy had always believed that victory was a matter of overwhelming force and superior technology, but they had underestimated something crucial: the Deathworlders' ability to thrive where others would perish. These humans had been forged on worlds so hostile that survival required more than just skill. It demanded grit, endurance, and a refusal to surrender to the odds. Their experience on deadly planets had given them an edge in both space combat and planetary battles. When the invaders tried to retreat to cover behind planetary defenses or hide within dense atmospheres, the Deathworlders pursued relentlessly, launching ground assaults with brutal efficiency. What made the Deathworlders truly fearsome was not just their raw power, but their resourcefulness. They scavenged weapons and technology from battlefields and enemy ships alike, quickly adapting whatever they found to suit their needs. Their crews were experts at turning discarded parts into deadly tools, using whatever was available to gain the upper hand. Tales spread throughout the galaxy of human fighters ripping apart enemy lines with improvised weapons and machines cobbled together from scrap. Their fierce determination inspired those who witnessed it and struck fear into the hearts of their foes. The invaders, once so confident and arrogant, began to falter. They found themselves fighting a force that refused to be crushed, one that grew stronger with every setback. Each victory won by the Deathworlders rekindled hope among the alien coalition's forces. The coalition's soldiers, who had been beaten down and demoralized by a seemingly unstoppable enemy, now saw a reason to fight back. The tide of the war was changing slowly but surely. Messages of hope traveled across the coalition's networks. Stories of battles won, of enemy ships destroyed, and of human warriors who refused to back down no matter the cost. This new chapter in the war brought a sense of unity and determination that had been missing for so long. The Deathworlders, with their unyielding resolve and savage ingenuity, had become more than just a mysterious fleet. They were a symbol of survival and defiance in the face of overwhelming odds. Yet even as the invaders struggled, the war was far from over. The enemy would not give up easily, and the Deathworlders knew that their greatest challenges were still ahead. But for now, the galaxy watched with bated breath as the tide turned, hopeful that this fierce and resourceful force could bring an end to the darkness threatening their worlds. The story of survival was far from finished. It had only just begun. The war had reached a turning point. The invaders, once feared for their unstoppable advance, had been pushed back from many of the coalition's worlds thanks to the relentless efforts of the Deathworlders. The alien leaders who had long relied on their superior technology and strict discipline now found themselves standing before a new reality. Their greatest hope for survival was no longer their own forces alone, but an alliance with the rough, fierce humans who had appeared like a storm from the edges of the galaxy. Approaching the Deathworlders was not an easy decision. The aliens were wary, unsure if these newcomers, blunt, direct, and often seeming uncaring about diplomacy, could be trusted. Yet, the respect forged in the fires of battle was undeniable. The Deathworlders had proven their worth not just in strength, but in their unwillingness to surrender to impossible odds. The coalition extended a cautious hand, proposing an alliance based on mutual survival rather than trust or friendship. The humans accepted, not out of kindness or idealism, but because they understood the value of unity against a common enemy. Their leaders, seasoned by years of fighting on hostile planets where only the toughest survived, knew that no one could win this war alone. This alliance was born of necessity, and it was forged in the heat of combat. Once united, the two forces began to learn from each other. The alien technology was advanced and powerful, capable of wonders the Deathworlders had never imagined. But it was the humans' survival skills and adaptability that gave the coalition an unexpected edge. They showed how to take advantage of environments and situations that the aliens had always considered hostile or impossible to use. Together they developed new tactics that combined precision and flexibility, using alien weaponry in ways that maximized its impact while also relying on the Deathworlders' brutal ingenuity. Defense systems were redesigned, blending high-tech shields with clever traps and countermeasures inspired by the Deathworlders' experience on Deathworlds. This merging of knowledge and skill began to shift the war further. The once lost territory started to return to coalition control. Worlds that had been overrun by the enemy were reclaimed through fierce battles, fought with a blend of advanced technology and raw determination. The galaxy watched in awe as this unlikely coalition pushed forward, proving that adaptability and the will to survive could overcome even the most superior technological forces. It was a reminder that strength was not just in weapons or numbers, but in the ability to change, to endure, and to fight smarter and harder than the enemy. While there were moments of tension, cultural differences, misunderstandings, and clashes of personality, the shared goal kept the alliance together. The humans, though often blunt and impatient, earned the respect of their alien allies through their courage and straightforward approach. The aliens in turn learned to appreciate the value of resilience and improvisation, qualities that had kept the Deathworlders alive in some of the deadliest places in the galaxy. As the coalition's combined forces moved forward, they not only reclaimed lost worlds but also forged a new future, one where old divisions were set aside for the sake of survival and victory. The story of the war was changing, and the galaxy was reminded that even in the darkest times, hope could rise from the most unexpected places. The war that had shaken the galaxy to its core was finally over, or so it seemed. The invaders, once a terrifying force that swept across star systems like a shadow of death, were defeated and driven back into the cold emptiness of space from which they had come. Across countless worlds, people and alien beings alike breathed a collective sigh of relief, their hearts lighter than they had been in years. But amid the celebration and rebuilding, there was a deep and lasting change in the way the galaxy viewed strength and survival. The Deathworlders, those fierce humans from the harshest planets, did not come seeking power or conquest. Their goal was simple yet profound: survival and respect in a galaxy that often measured worth by technological advancement or political power. They had arrived when all seemed lost, not with glittering fleets or overwhelming firepower, but with grit, resilience, and an unyielding spirit that refused to bow to the enemy. Their victory was not just a military success. It was a powerful lesson that true strength came from the ability to endure, adapt, and fight with heart. The ripple effects of their arrival spread far beyond the battlefield. Interstellar politics, once dominated by the most advanced civilizations and their shiny fleets, began to shift. Leaders who had long dismissed the humans as primitive or rough around the edges now approached them with cautious respect, eager to learn from their experience and understand their fierce determination. The coalition, once fragmented by pride and suspicion, found new unity inspired by the Deathworlders' example. As they rebuilt shattered worlds and repaired broken alliances, the coalition leaders vowed never to forget the humans who had turned desperation into hope and fear into respect. Statues and memorials rose on many worlds, not only to honor the lost but to remind future generations that survival often required more than weapons and strategy. It demanded heart, courage, and the willingness to face the worst without backing down. The Deathworlders themselves remained humble, knowing that their fight was never about glory. They were warriors born of hardship, shaped by the struggle to live on worlds where nature itself was a constant enemy. Their arrival had been a storm that shook the galaxy, but their legacy was a quiet strength that would endure for generations. The galaxy, forever changed, now understood that advanced technology alone could not guarantee victory or peace. It was the human spirit, rough, raw, and unbreakable, that had saved them when all else failed. And as new threats loomed on the horizon, the Coalition and the Deathworlders stood ready, united by the battles they had fought and the future they would build together. A new dawn had broken for the galaxy, one brightened by the fierce light of survival and hope, forever shaped by the arrival of the Deathworlder fleet.